Hello everyone, my name is Aaron with Jackson Bottom Wetlands and welcome to Backyard Science. This week we are learning about ornithology, or the study of birds. So today I'm going to be teaching you about development and the life cycle of our feathered friends. Something I find really interesting about birds is that they are living dinosaurs today. First evolving in the early Cretaceous period over 160 million years ago, they haven't really changed since then. So they have evolved to become this near perfect animal that can live in almost any climate or habitat on our planet today. Now, all birds have some similarities, like a beak or feathers, or they also lay eggs, hard-shelled eggs that is, made of calcium carbonate, the same thing that a crab or a sea snail makes its shell out of. But do you think all birds grow up the same? No, they definitely don't. So birds have some similarities, but they develop differently, and a lot of times their life cycles are completely different depending on the species. So let's start with the egg. Bird eggs are hard-shelled, made with calcium carbonate. Can you think of any other animals that may lay an egg? Now, all birds will lay the hard-shelled egg, and that's to help protect the embryo and help it develop. Now, an embryo is basically a baby bird that hasn't fully developed yet. So once the eggs are fertilized through mating, the embryo can then start to develop inside the egg. Now, inside the yolk, where the embryo grows, there's 3 fluid sacs that help connect it, and it's called the vitellus, the allantois, and the amnion. These 3 fluid sacs help provide nutrients to the embryo so it can grow. So do you think all bird eggs are going to be the same size, the same shape, or even the same color? Think to yourself why it would be necessary for a bird egg to be a different size, or a different color, or even a different shape than another species' egg. So once the female's eggs have been fertilized through mating, she then can go through the incubation process. So once the eggs are laid, she will then sit on the eggs and keep them at the perfect temperature for development. That's incubation. So what's really cool is that all birds do it differently. Now this is where nests come in. All kinds of animals make nests, from gorillas to even fish. But bird nests are extremely special. Bird nests can be made of any different types of materials, and they also help with the incubation process of the eggs. So depending on the species, a nest can be anywhere from the size of a $50 to bigger than a car. So bird nests come in all different shapes and sizes. Some will make a nest every single year. Some will just reuse the same nest year after year. And other birds will actually make multiple nests as decoy nests. There is another bird in Australia called the Australian bush turkey, and they actually create a giant compost pile that heats their eggs to the perfect temperature. And they can use their beaks as a thermometer and take off material or add material to cool or heat the pile. So birds have a very diverse way of incubating their eggs. Now, depending on species, these eggs will also incubate for different time periods as well. So take a house sparrow, for instance, which is a smaller bird, will incubate in 11 days. So those babies are hatched after laying in less than 2 weeks. And other birds will take up to 85 days to incubate. So over 3.5 months for some birds to hatch. So it really depends on the species, the habitat, and the situation that these baby birds are being born in. So depending on that situation and the species, baby birds are one of two things, either precocial or altricial. Now, precocial baby birds are birds that are born mostly feathered and mostly developed that can either run or become mobile very quickly after hatching. Altricial birds are birds that are completely helpless and they need their parents' love and rendering for at least a few days to even up to a few years. So birds, depending on their situation, have evolved a little differently. So most bird parents are maternal and paternal, which means that the mother and the father will both take care of the nest. Now, as the babies grow, they are what's called fledglings. When it's time to leave the nest, they fledge the nest. Now, a lot of fledglings, more often than not, aren't fully capable of flying yet. So they need time to develop. So a lot of birds will stay close to their parents or the family or their siblings for at least a few more days to even a few more years in some species. So as a bird developed, it turns from a fledgling into an immature or what's called a juvenile bird. Most juveniles look really different from their parents. They are completely camouflaged still to fit in with their surroundings. So they're not brightly colored or vividly starking yet. Now, as the juvenile bird grows into its adult feathers, it's going to go through a process, what's called molting. Molting is a very important process for birds. Without molting, they wouldn't be able to fly. Now, feathers can't last forever. So molting is the process in which they replace their feathers bit by bit. If a bird replaced all of its feathers at once, what do you think would happen? Probably wouldn't be able to fly, right? So birds have developed a twice-a-year molting process that happens in stages. Now, to keep their feathers healthy between molting, birds use a process what's called preening. And that is where they take their beak and they spread preening oils that comes from a gland within their skin. And they spread that oil over the feathers and it keeps the feathers looking nice, neat, clean, and keeps them flight ready. Now, once a bird has reached adulthood, it is then ready to mate. It has reached what we call sexual maturity. So birds are a perfect example of sexual selection, where the females, in this case, have been choosing very pretty, very strong, and very loud birds for millions of years, thus creating all the colorful and loud and beautiful sounding birds that we have today. Over time, birds have developed many different ways at attracting a female. Some birds dance to attract a female, other birds will sing, other birds will flash their bright colors. Can you think of a song or a dance that you would do to attract a friend? Oh, those black-legged kittiwakes. So, thanks for watching. I hope you guys learned a lot about a life cycle of birds and how they develop from an egg all the way into adulthood. I am here in my nest. I have got some really fun, cozy materials that I have made here. Now, at home, you guys can make your own nests. It can be anything from a blanket on the floor to a chair or the couch or even the bed. And you can use anything from chairs to cardboard boxes to pillows, blankets, or stuffed animals. But you can always make your nest how you want it. Remember, there's all different kinds of nests out there.